Has Contagion approached the zone of opportunity, or is this just the beginning of the end? We're going to take a look at all that. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. If you're new to our channel, maybe you're new to crypto, you have entered crypto on a day or on a week in which we may see some of the biggest changes in not only wealth, but also in the entire market itself. And that is the point of where a lot of different projects could end up getting wrecked. A lot of different whales that are in the sector could be in a position right now that completely changes the format going forward of how crypto investing might take place. This happens in the stock market, it's happened in real estate, it's happened in stocks and bonds. We've seen it in all aspects of investing. Crypto has not necessarily seen this before. Now, sure, we've seen cycles, the up, the down, but the intangibles that are very difficult to measure away from what you see on on-chain data. This is really the first cycle that we've seen all the bad actors start to come to light. Sure, there were, Mt. Goxes, but we haven't seen it at the acceleration point of today. So we're going to get into all that. I do want to thank our sponsor today, and that is, ironically, Binance. Binance US, if you guys are looking at trying to run on an exchange right now and do some trading in these volatile times, maybe you're looking at dollar cost averaging as the market falls and trying to position in. You've got to look at an exchange and where you can do that. One advantage with Binance, you can do this now with zero trading fees on Bitcoin. So pretty cool. And if you are looking at going ahead and staking some of the stuff, if you are saying, hey, I'm going to hang around and stay and weather through this, there's a list right there. BNB holding at 3.5, not a great one. Matic at 5.7, ETH at 6, Solana at 7.5. This could be a problem down the road. Make sure and check out our video on Solana. We just did a big one on that. But anyway, make sure and click the link below if you are looking to jump into a new exchange now that you probably moved off of FTX. Just so you know that everybody is wrong sometimes. And even the great Mr. Wonderful finally solved his compliance problems with cryptocurrency. I'm going to use FTX to increase my allocation and use the platform to manage my portfolios. Hopefully, Kevin was able to get out of there. And of course, his investments and the potential brand ambassadorship. All those kind of things play into this in the market. And this shows you guys that everybody gets hurt. Whether it is the rich, the people that are just getting into crypto, people that maybe just got in a month ago. In these kinds of scenarios, everybody does take some damage. This is just kind of an ironic video. I just thought we have to play it. We have to play it, but here it is.
I was saying, it's FTX. It's a safe and easy way to get into crypto.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I'm never wrong about this stuff. Never.
I hope that was a little bit of comic relief, but probably didn't land that one as good as it was. The point was Bitcoin tweeted that out. So definitely no love lost right there for sure. So the big issue right now is the Binance deal. Obviously, everybody has learned that this is potentially not going to go through. The article right here, Binance unlikely to go through the FTX deal purchase after reviewing the company books. And I think this is a scenario that typically plays out in a lot of the due diligence of many of these kinds of scenarios. Things start to look really rosy, and then all of a sudden they start to see where the hidden corners are, and things just don't look as rosy. Now, it could also be a negotiation tactic. This is a common negotiation tactic to reduce price. That in itself also could be a factor here, but right now, as of filming today, it looks as though Binance might back out of the deal after reviewing the books. This decision would be the worst case scenario for the industry, and I do think that is the situation. The reason is because of the contagion effect that this now has exposed without actually giving any kind of off-ramp to a lot of people. So we are now stuck with a lot of users that have, and I hope that many of you were able, all of you were able to get your funds out of FTX. And you've heard me say this many times before, and when we've seen down times like this, there's one place to do this, and that is get into self-custody. You should be using exchanges for just the bare minimum of get your purchase done, move your Bitcoin or your whichever token you're trading on, and get it into your cold storage. If you've got to have it there for any purpose outside of that, it just isn't worth the risk right now. And I'm talking about right now, any exchange. Any exchange should be looked at with high skepticism in all exchanges. So just use them for what they're designed to be and for the purpose that they're meant to be, and that is to exchange a deal. CoinDesk cites person familiar with the deal. Binance has reviewed FTX's books as mentioned. Its internal data and loan commitments reports Binance is now strongly leaning against completing the transaction. I wouldn't put this completely off the table just yet, but it looks as though this could be a very weak deal falling apart. I personally assign a 10% chance to CZ follows through. That's low. Even if I was sitting on $10 billion in liquid, you couldn't pay me to acquire FTX right now. You're telling me CZ is going to want to acquire the insolvent exchange? He has to make this thing. No, I don't think so. Don't mean to be a bearer of bad news, but if it isn't clear, if you still have funds on FTX, they're gone. This is a problem right now that I think the industry, gets back to some situations that we've seen time and time again with Celsius, with Voyager. That was kind of the warm-ups, guys. And I think a lot of you watching our show probably knew and understand that those kind of things are going to happen. And we've been talking about this for quite some time. Here's Gareth coming in. Let me zoom up on his tweet. Crypto and stock market, both here, okay, are hanging on by a thread. Tomorrow's CPI data is 10 times more important after the FTT collapse as investors are panicking. Hotter than expected CPI numbers could cause a deleveraging chain reaction in crypto, causing more bankruptcies in stock market, many collapse, all that good stuff. Just read that 1 second for a minute. You understand that what he's talking about here is potentially a market mini collapse. And as a market mini collapse, this will have huge effects on other aspects. Now we're talking about liquidity into banking, liquidity into other major markets, including real estate, traditional securities, etc., all start to play into this, not to mention the impact that we are going to see in some of everything from retirement accounts, things of that nature, and then the global impact that this bleeds over into. So just don't think this is a U.S. situation. This is a global scenario that is occurring right now. This was an interesting tweet by Alf. Someone go check on Saylor. This is a question mark. Michael Saylor, obviously in a very large position with Bitcoin, and there are some liquidity positions that could put Saylor in and at risk. And I say Saylor, meaning more so MicroStrategies. But the point being is that if that house were to be in a situation where we do see an adjustment in terms of we're going to have to sell and liquidate some of this, even though money cost for them is almost down to zero, meaning they were able to get funds at almost no interest rates. In that kind of scenario, I think this still gets Bitcoin into a death zone area, and that has been sub 10,000. That's where the death zone really is. And I think that's going to be the question mark, because this will be a point where people will look at Bitcoin and say, is it something to get back into? And do you get into Bitcoin sub 10,000 and step away and go, you know what? Maybe there's another asset now. And I know this is hard to understand of what the capacity could be, but you have to think in the measurement, just like in any business, when you start to go into bankruptcy mode or in those kind of situations. And I've been in companies where they've tried to restructure, and I've seen this up close, and it's not a pretty thing, because they make a lot of decisions on the fly, typically make mistakes, and that in itself causes problems that are almost contagion in themselves. So it's a tough one. FTX implosion has U.S. regulators now on watch. So this only adds fuel to the fire, guys. This is a problem because it does start to expose some of the weaknesses that we do have in crypto. Commodity future, this is obviously CFTC's saying it's watching the situation, but any regulatory issues right now are very unclear. But the fact that they've got them on the watch list, so hurricane watch, so to speak, is real. U.S. regulators had already planned to double down on enforcement of existing financial laws to apply to crypto. So we knew that it's been coming, and yes, the Biden administration has been pushing to this. This is only going to put us into that kind of scenario where this could go two ways. One way is we're going to get regulation one way or the other. The question is if we see enough from the capitalist side of this, they'll see this as an opportunity and try to seize it really while it's literally down at its bare minimum. or we could see overregulation. And overregulation is the part that I'm most concerned about right now. You could argue, though, that this proves like, hey, we need legislation to do this as soon as humanly possible and try to pass it. This would get where we would be in a position where it would be either bad and or over-regulated scenarios and would really hurt, I think, the United States in its overall development. Senator Loomis, though, points to FTX's Binance situation as a catalyst for her crypto legislation. And she is one of the people that we've talked about here on the show. Check back to what we've talked about before about Senator Loomis and Gillibrand. Because what they're trying to do, I think, in the effort of what, politicians and lawmakers can provide, which is usually not a great effort, but at least something that might get us in the right direction. I think stablecoin regulation, of course, we've talked about many times as being really one of the key and critical things. But more than likely, this is going to be a regulation scenario that I think will start to put a lot more pressures on the exchanges and stablecoins as a whole. This is exactly what MiCA is doing in Europe, and I think this will probably bleed over into the United States. Market manipulation, leading activity, whether customers' funds and assets were appropriately safeguarded, this is a problem, and this, again, gets back to the point where these senators and a lot of these lawmakers will look to that and simply say, these kind of regulations have to go in place, much like what banks have to go through when they have a money license. So that I'm okay with. The problem is that it potentially could drag DeFi into this. And if it drags DeFi in, then we got a problem, because that in itself essentially eliminates the free market system for crypto and blockchain as a whole for the United States. That is the slippery slope that we are on right now. So there is a lot starting to move into a very precarious situation right now. FTX's liquidity crunch already has come to the attention of the Fed regs, and they have kind of put this around a bill that's very tightly associated with what Bankman was trying to do. Remember, and his concept of regulation was to eliminate DeFi. Now we probably can start to see why this was being done by FTX and Sam Bankman, is maybe for just simple self-preservation, meaning they had to do something within the market to be able to self-protect what their own situation was by removing opportunities for others within the market as a whole. Here was BitBoy coming in, Ben Armstrong. Think back a few weeks ago when CZ was able to invest $500 million into Twitter. Remember that SBF tried to jump into that, and he was shot down by Elon. So maybe Elon is one of the good guys. Maybe he knew something here. Maybe there was some discovery that, because most of these guys, even though a lot of these billionaires will do this over a phone or a text call, but they usually kind of have an insight, and a due diligence team right behind it. Let's go check, pull those, give us your basics in terms of financials and be able to establish that. Now here's CZ talking about this. Now, and I would like to know right now, guys, and do you think this was good for crypto to reveal again another layer of the snakes and vipers in a way in which we could see a market demolition? Or do you think it was bad? Did CZ maybe miscalculate here? Would love to know your input. Smash the like on the video if you guys like these kind of rundowns. We are going to give you Bitcoin sentiment here at the end of the show, so make sure and stick around on that, because we do have some anticipation of where Bitcoin is going currently on our current CPI. Remember, CPI, our own crypto power index, is now daily, so we're dropping these quite a bit. Here in his statement, the purchase of FTX is not a win for us. Binance shared a new recent FTX Alameda implosion has shaken up user faith in the industry. This was, I think a serious note. And he did a full blown, so you can check his Twitter out there, but this is the whole thing. But FTX should not be referred to as a win for the exchange, considering the near collapse of FTX has intensified regulator scrutiny in the crypto sector. This is going to get a lot worse because of the contagion effect that we're talking about and what we're dealing with. Remember, this is not just FTX happening. Remember the number of companies that are in the list. I'll show you in a minute. Just the amount of investors, real-time venture capital, that also could start to play into this. And I'll explain that here a little bit further. But this was a full-on letter. let me kind of zoom in on a little bit of this for you guys. I won't bore you with all of it, but one, we did not master plan this or anything related. It was less than 24 hours that SBF called me, and before that, very little knowledge of the internal state of things at FTX. I could do some mental calculations based on revenues, etc. So, I mean, you could look at this and say, all right, CZ is a seasoned businessman. And I would put him in the top 3, maybe top 5 of crypto and blockchain minds in the industry. I don't know that if you're at that level, you could not have known that this was a potential alternative. Because remember, when you put these kinds of moves in play, you're dealing on probabilities. The probabilities of, if we put this in motion, here's the things that could happen. If we put it in motion this way, here's the things that could happen. I mean, CZ is Chinese, and if you understand Chinese culture, these people think in decades. They don't look at planning for next year. They're planning for the next decade, for a legacy. And I just feel like there was probably either more awareness here than he is willing to admit, and possibly in a situation that maybe things went a little bit sideways on CZ of what he thought would happen as an overall market impact, and also from a position of where probability starts to play out. Because really, at the end of the day, that's all this is. It's probability on where the next stage is going to happen, just like chess moves. So you had Dylan and Claire kind of talking about this. Binance highly unlikely to go through with the proposed deal. But again, I don't think a lot of people were absolutely surprised by this, because it has already been kind of a situation that everybody's been looking at for a bit of time. Further into this is Eleanor Terrett. She just reported this this morning. This was this morning at 9 or 11 a.m. And this was in response to rumors. So it appears to be official now, because this was the Binance strategy officer, Hillman, who basically told Bach, we're just 36 hours into the due diligence process. Once we have completed that, we'll make a decision based on that. So maybe there's enough of this coming out now with CZ, because he kind of fetters this out into the market to where this might play out. Now, the other question is how far can this reach? Does this go to the stablecoin market? Does this start to move into something like Tether, Circle? They're denying exposure right now to FTX and Alameda. But you have to remember, there's a lot of players here in this mix. I just cannot believe that is the case with FTX exposure from Circle and even Tether to a certain extent. I think there has to be some, even though the chief information officer and tech officer over at Tether, to be clear, Tether does not have any, let me pull that up real close, does not have any exposure to FTX or Alameda, zero, no. Maybe this time you should look elsewhere. And, he kind of gets a little punchy with people on Twitter, mainly because Wu Blockchain just kind of has talked about Tether should disclose more of their financial relations with FTX Alameda, let users know if there's a risk. And Wu Blockchain has been on them quite a bit about, the whole issue. And, Tether, they move around from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. They kind of sidestep the transparency scenario. Sure, there's a lot of so-called transparency in a lot of these. I'm still of the ilk that Tether is still a marginal stablecoin. Not that I'm saying it's bad. It has great use. I use it all the time. But it's not something that I would look at long-term storage in. USDC, even to a certain extent for me, has started to dissipate in terms of its validity. I'm very intrigued with BUSD because of its connection now to Binance, but I still don't pull it off the table in the sense that we couldn't see a critical problem there as well. So remember, right now, nothing is sacred and everything is at risk and on the table right now, today. So it's big. Alameda has issued and redeemed a lot of USDT in the past. Stablecoin issue had no credit exposure, as matured with struggling crypto firms. So Tether is issued and redeemed upon market demand by our customers. This was a statement from them. Circle came in. This, of course, is Jeremy Allaire, their CEO. Lots of FUD. He always comes out with this. Lots of FUD, you people. But at the same time, we're starting to continue to see diving rates in terms of yields paid on these stablecoins, when right now we're seeing US dollar banks now starting to pony up as much as 3 and 4%, even Robinhood to a certain extent. Robinhood is a question mark, though, right now. Robinhood is a question mark, obviously, because of its tie to FTX and the percentage on the cap table that Robinhood has. So again, lots happening there for sure. Make sure and smash the like button, guys. It does help us get this out there. And it's an important scenario right now. I have talked to people just yesterday that, sometimes I don't get a chance to talk to all of my friends, and they're asking me what's happening with FTX. And I'm like, wait a minute, you have money in FTX right now? And yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, we've got to get this word out there. You can't communicate that much information to hundreds or thousands just through text and phone and even email to a certain extent. But it is something that helps in the essence of understanding the contagion, because there could be some other effects that starts to roll into the market that we all need to keep our head around. And that includes other exchanges. That's why I try to get everybody right now, if you've got a Ledger or a Trezor, get active on it. Again, understand what you're doing with your cold storage or hardware wallets, and start doing self-custody. These are just practices. Everybody gets lazy. I understand it gets easy to leave your stuff over there on an exchange, but get it done, and get it done in a way. Now, I understand sometimes you're like, hey, Paul, I've got a lot of cold. If you're sitting on USDT or C, my recommendation is going to US dollars, getting into dollars, moving that in, snuggling that away, and be ready to move. Now, sure, you might need that into an exchange for a potential flash crash on something that is an asset that you want when you're looking long term. And it's the same thing with real estate, same thing with stocks right now. There's going to be some big buys out there, so just be ready. Back to Circle has never made loans to FTX or Alameda, has never received FTT collateral, has never had a position or traded FTT. In any case, Circle does not trade on its own account. In response to the millions of USDC moved by Alameda Research to FTX, remember, USDC and Solana are attached. Solana is highly attached to FTX and FTT at the moment, and what's happening with Crypto.com. This is how contagion works. You don't know where it potentially rolls up into a situation that causes the effect of something else that looks to be somewhat insulated. So that's why I'm always worried about these kind of scenarios. Roughly 80% of Circle assets are in US 3 months or less US Treasury bills, and in custody of the BNY Mellon. That's Bank of New York Mellon. So it's a good pitch. I'm fine with that, but again, I err to caution more so than anything. As you guys know, I'm a very conservative player here, even though I look at a lot of risk on assets, and I do look at a lot of projects that are high risk, because that's how I invest. I'll look at 80% of my portfolio when it comes to crypto is in blue chips, and then 20% of my portfolio will come in to that high risk zone, because for me, it's a gambling position, just like when I invest in startups, angel investing, seed round investing, same kind of scenario. I expect those investments to go to zero, and I hope that I hit 1 out of 20. And if I hit the 1 out of 20, I take 100K and turn it into $1 million. You could do those kinds of things when you have the risk appetite of doing those kinds of scenarios. But if you do not, then risk appetite in markets like what we're dealing with right now are off the table. You have to look into your blue chips and think about what you're willing to hold long term. And that really is what it boils into. This, of course, with just in from Watch Guru, talking about this morning on FTX, potentially getting probes in. We kind of talked a little bit about that. And I don't know, do you guys think if FTX is revealed as a bad actor and that something was, there was some shenanigans happening here, and Bankman now becomes pretty much a target for regulators, do you think this could spin us into a negative regulatory cycle? I'm just kind of curious. Or do you think this could just simply open up and say, finally, people are going to figure this out. It's a small market. They understand these, it's a lot of, Wild West gunslingers out there. They're going to get it in check, much like what the internet was in the early days. Same kind of scenario, not really a lot of different. These are the players, though, that are different. Now, this is where it paints in a very, very close comparison to the .bomb. So this article right here, Yuga Labs, Circle, Skybridge, among other investors in FTX Ventures made prior to liquidity issues. So you've got a lot of people exposed here within the investment rounds. And I think this is the one, guys, that biggest funding rounds with FTX Ventures right there. Yuga Labs, so that's Bored Ape. Circle coming in, not exposed. Biggest funding rounds, okay? Near Protocol comes in, Sui, BlockFi, Aptos, etc. And you further into here, it says among the biggest names, FTX Ventures, Bored Ape, Yuga, USD stablecoin issuer, Circle, one blockchains near, all that. Skybridge had a stake in there, so you got Scaramucci now on the risk, agreed to buy 30%. This was FTX saying that they would do it. I don't know how and if that went through. Then you had Tiger Global, SoftBank also having headaches. Remember, SoftBank was the guys behind WeWork that imploded on the valuation and devaluation, eventual delisting work. So you got Tiger Global right now, fund to participate in $420 million round with FTX. That was October, okay? $25 billion val. Returned in January for another round at $32 billion. So between October and January, the thing went from $25 billion to $32 billion, $7 billion valuation round moving forward. SoftBank, the Vision Fund, this was another returning investor. All these now are at risk, super high risk. Now further into this, and I think there was another article that kind of goes into this. I don't know if it's in this sheet. Yeah, right here. Let me pull it up right here. Let me zoom in on this one because this is a little one hard to read. But let me kind of zoom in over here. Okay, so this, you can't see them. I'll try to help kind of decipher some of these for you. This was in August of 19, and we're talking about FBG Capital, a lot of unknown, Chris McCann, just not really. Guess who steps in right here in December of 19, strategic round, was Binance Labs. Then we go into Series B, right here, July of 21. That was just last year, July of 21 at a $900 million round. And let's look in there on that one. You have Altimeter in there. You've got Lightspeed Ventures, Paradigm, Bond, Circle coming in there. All of these, this is where Contagion starts to go. Then you've got BlackRock in the next round, Iconic in the next round, Tiger Global, and then the one that I don't like to see on this list is Sequoia Capital, right there, Sequoia Capital. This is one of the biggest Silicon Valley investment VCs that are in the market. They came in on the $420 million round, Series B, the extension round October. January, you had Series C. This is January, Series C, and you had Lightspeed that came back and did a double dip. Tiger Global did a double dip. SoftBank came in again. And then Multicoin Capital. Remember Multicoin Capital, guys? That's another one that I'm very interested in because they are tied into a lot of other aspects around many other tokens and including Bitcoin. So big things happening around where Contagion may flow. Don't forget to drop some questions in over on the sidebar. We'll try to get to some of those. I will get to some sentiment numbers here. Maple Finance halted Alameda loans. This was back in May, so there was some kind of awareness that some of these guys were starting to think, wait a minute, there's something going on here. Don't completely throw this out. So you got to pay attention to a lot of this stuff as it starts to move into the market. This is did its due diligence in a risk management. It spotted certain weaknesses in Alameda ahead of the ongoing crisis. It claimed today without going into specific details. Would have been nice to know, Maple, if you guys would have let the market know those kinds of things. They also previously issued a $88 million loans in specific pool dedicated to Alameda. That started again back in 2021. Man, these guys had so much money in the market flowing into this. Where did this money go? Is what I think eventually is going to be the case. How much did they really spend? I mean, you can only buy the FTX arena here in Miami for so much. What else are you going to do with this money? It's crazy. Crazy times we're dealing with. Here's Capo. He kind of hit it. Bottom is far from in, price-wise, time-wise. I think it could happen in the next few days. This can only end one way, financial capitulation event with tons of liquidations. That's what we're seeing right now. Massive FUD everywhere, bearish and calling it for lower prices. Now, many people I've seen on my own Twitter, Paul, don't say anything bad about what's happening. Don't do this. It's bad. It's FUD. It's FUD. I'm like, no, you don't understand. These are facts. These are things that are going to protect people from maybe entering into a zone they can't recover from. You have to be able to let these things out and air them into the market. This is going to make its way out there. And when it makes its way out there to the masses, to the public, remember right now, guys, we're the Kool-Aid drinkers. We're catching all this on the early edge, on the bleeding edge. Many people, as I said earlier, didn't even know there was trouble at FTX. I have friends of mine now who have 6 figures and more, 7 figures in some cases, who've been into FTX that deep. So you got to be ready for dealing with what's happening right now. Capitulation is at the door. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. I do want to take a look at the poll real quick, and then we'll get to some questions, and then we will get to Bitcoin and where this may go into. Could we see another major exchange fall soon? Yes, this is just beginning, 71. It's interesting that you guys expect this. So this gives me a good feeling because 71% of our audience think this could happen. That is really good because you guys are playing defense right now, and that is the best thing to be playing in this stage of the bleeding is defense. Now there's, it's kind of like double defense where you're playing defense and offense at the same time. That can happen in times right now. An example would be dollar cost averaging. If you're doing that, dollar cost averaging of something like Bitcoin, or if you like Ethereum, whatever it might be, if you say, okay, listen, that's one of my methods. I'm buying at every $1,000 and I've got now sell orders at 15.5, 14.5, 13.5. I'm looking for the downtrend, and then you pull all that together for your dollar cost averaging. Where you might end up with is a $15,000 average on Bitcoin, and in 2 years, we're sitting at 100K. That's a pretty nice return. So those are the things I'm watching for. Jumping into Bitcoin right now, holding the 16.7. And this fall off right here that we've been detecting has been one that has been on our map for some time. It's not something that has been just, oh, it's coming. We might see it. Let's take a look at sentiment. Let's jump over there. And I was on the Sol chart earlier. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. So you can kind of see this fall off started right here. Again, on November 4th was really the date in which we started seeing the market adjust. And that is exactly the kind of scenario when you think about right here. Yeah, right there. November 4th, we were starting to see the negative turn. And this was the last real zone that we saw in terms of upside for Bitcoin, which came up from around 20,000 up to its nice little soft market at 21.4, and then the sideways and then the fall off. But according to what we've been tracking is dead zone coming. And now we're at Bitcoin coming under the overall market. Anytime this happens, I'm very concerned about how this plays out. For sure. All right, so let's get to some questions. I know a lot of you. Okay, another poll coming in. Okay, let's get it. Have you removed your crypto from an exchange in the last 72? Ooh, what? 66, what? I know that's not a lot of votes on this one. Please tell me that's just a low number of votes. That I'm hoping that is your thing that you're doing right now is you're getting this into either cold storage or you're going into your software wallets. You're getting into positions where you're controlling your keys. I hope that is the case. Let's get into some questions here. Ready to solo stake 32 ETH. Ooh, nice, interesting. That's a good one. Got it. All right. Who's the next big exchange? This coming in from Amon Perry. Well, the next big exchange to take a fall, follow the yellow brick road. Who are the ones that potentially have those contagion tethers into what's happening with FTX? I'm still concerned about Robinhood. I'm still concerned about some of these mid-tier exchanges, not necessarily wholly in part of FTX, but maybe in part of liquidity issues that start to flow into these kind of contagion scenarios. Because a lot of people kind of run into that. Aptos, yes, you need to get out of that. This is big danger. Big danger. No stables, straight to fiat. Yes, I would say safe zone, get out of stables. I know this is not financial advice, okay? But what I'm playing it like for me, okay? I would play it with, I'd leave some stable coin in so I can trade because there's going to be opportunities. But if I'm in a position where I need to go to cash and I'm ready for the fall and I'm not willing to go on the bleeding edge, I want to take the ramp back up, kind of like what Darius Dale talks about. I always love quoting Darius on this is don't buy when there's blood in the streets, buy when the cleanup of the blood in the streets is happening. And that's, you're going to catch it on the backside. You might miss 5, 10, 15% on gains, That's okay. Nothing wrong with that, man. You're going up. That's a different game than where you are going down. This is for the gunslingers that are playing into this market right now. KuCoin, you think maybe, I don't know why, if you're just random, or if you got something that you may think. I've looked at KuCoin many times. I've got an account over on KuCoin. I throw in and out of there, so I'm good. 4C, after being in crypto for years, I am on the brink to leave. Listen, dude, I'm going to tell you, you have yet to see fraud and crooks until you enter the banking industry or you enter the stock industry. This is child's play compared to securities. You are not at risk at the level that you would be in securities, everything from junk bonds to just ridiculous valuations to unworthy practices in terms of business. Yeah, we can get in and going forever on this. I mean, just think Peloton. Just go into Peloton alone. What the bill of goods they sold there. Go to WeWork. Go to look at that situation. We may have, well, there's a dozen more, hundreds more, 438 banks going down in 2008. Maybe you should talk about those as well. So you kind of start to get to say there's a lot of crooks anytime there is money in the water. And that's what we have right here with crypto. Question: if the feds bail out banks, stock market plunge, prediction team, why not bail out a crypto? No way, man, no regulation. Do you see any big player as a Fed's major bank coming to the bailout? The FTX, probably not going to be the case. If anything, it could be a bank trying to come in and siphon out the remaining assets in the customer base. PB, with this bloodbath, do you think stables are in danger to depeg? I don't know about depegging, but I would say that all things are at risk right now. Get to cash if you can. Play the market if you're here for a full risk on position, and be ready to catch some value. That's basically the way I'm playing it. How does FTX US fit into all of this? The same way, no different. It's FTX US, same situation. Just made a withdrawal from CDC, no problems. Good for you. I hate to say it, but this fallout is healthy. Yes, I would agree. Ripping the bandage. Yeah, and this is typical. I mean, go back to the full stock market crashes that we've seen in the 1920s. Go back to the 1940s. Go back to the 1970s when we had runaway inflation and gas wars. Go back to the 1980s when double digit we had Paul Volcker. All these markets have been played out before. So the history already shows this, all right? It's okay to see these things coming. The cool thing is you guys are ahead of it. You're way out in front of this. You're catching these kinds of things because you're paying attention. That's the first thing you got to do. Pay attention. Cody comes in. What do you think is going to happen with Coinbase? Listen, Coinbase is, they got a bullseye on their back right now. They got a lot of cash. The stock price is the problem. And also, even though you got, people like Mama Wood coming in and trying to do some things with Coinbase, they're still a target. Their target is on their back. Binance is looking for them. They got 100 million users, probably around 70 million, maybe 80 million now. We're going to continue to see fallout on that and try to regrow in the next bear market. But yeah, could be a problem. Adam, crypto.com, this is one I don't like. And I've said it many times is, we used to love crypto.com. And the signs that we showed on crypto.com, let me go over to a YouTube, because we had this right here. This was back, when was this? 4 months ago. Crypto.com limiting withdrawals after layoffs. And that wasn't even the beginning of it. So we've reported on this before with crypto.com. It was really the issue of them starting to change all the rules on yields, changing the rules on deposits and withdrawals, changing the rules on how you were able to use the debit cards and credit card aspects. All of that started to indicate to me problems of where it was going. So we kind of play away and stay away from those. Coinbase for cash in and out for myself. Okay, good. Use their crypto card for bills. Okay, that's a 4%. Yeah, I like that. When you have a very low risk and you're doing things like that, that's good. Does this event accelerate and shorten the bear market? No, it does not. In fact, it only makes it more painful to get through because we are still in a macro-driven world, people. What you're dealing with right now is just bad actor activity that's causing contagion in a market, but the real problem over here is the big 800-pound gorilla called, you name it. I'm looking at some of the comments here. Geez. Yeah, called macro, for sure. If Binance backs out of the deal, could you see traditional banks? Yeah, we talked about that earlier. possibly, maybe a bank does come in. Fidelity might come in. You could see someone else, maybe BlackRock. Also, you could see maybe one of the finance guys on the investment side of this come in because they don't want to lose their shirt on this, because that's the other scenario. You've got VCs out here at full exposure, which means they've got funds that have due diligence in their limited partners of who they owe money to. So a lot happening there. Did you guys have something in the pit coming up? All right. Just won my money back from Voyager. Now the company buying Voyager is screwed. Yeah, so it's like double dipping right there. I mean, you had money in Voyager and had money in FTX. You just got slammed twice. What about Gala? Full disclosure, they're a channel partner. You know, it doesn't mean much other than we advertise for them. But the point is that when you look at all these coins right now, there are going to be some deep cuts. So be ready for that. I can't say, Cactus Girl, if Coinbase is at risk. What I can say is that if you have, I've said it throughout the show today, come on, just get your coins off exchanges. It's just that simple. Move to a wallet. If you leave some in there, get it in there. Okay, trade it, move it in. Yes, that's fine. That's what I want to see. No problems with that. Cold wallets, that's fine. If you don't have a cold wallet, use our Ledger link and get one. I like Ledger. Get the one that is the Nano Plus. I like that one. Probably time for us to start doing cold wallet and hardware wallet reviews and things of that. Is 10K Bitcoin possible? Yes, because here's why. When you look at Bitcoin right now, and I'm going to go to the 6 month. Yeah, there we go. All right, it is official. All right, so we just got news in, official that Binance did walk away from the deal, so they're out. So I want you to look at something here. Is volatility moving in here? But across this 6 month range, this is the kind of numbers that we have not seen before, guys, all right? And when you look at the current sentiment fall off right here, this 47 right here, this is highly irregular of Bitcoin. And this playing the way it is right now, this is today's sentiment number. I expect Bitcoin could fall again. If we get down to low 40s in Bitcoin, you will see a $10,000 Bitcoin. So you heard it here. All right, so guys, we're going to get into this. We're going to keep you covered all week. Don't worry about it. It's, yes, worry about it, but don't panic. Be ready. Just keep your head straight. Don't do anything crazy either. If you guys are in a financial position right now that is not looking good, don't do anything crazy, all right? Be safe. And if you do need assistance, think about those things, guys, all right? This can get into your head real quickly. Let that go because it's just money. And there's more where that came from. We can make it back. Those kind of things can return, but you have to be ready for those things. So just let's hang in there. And we're going to be with you all week. So if you guys are not in the diamond circles, get in now. It's the best way to stay communicative. We drop a lot of stuff in our mastermind group right here. We were on FTX over the weekend on our mastermind group, dropping as much as we can because a lot of the research that we do will flip into the mastermind group. And listen, we've got a ton of research guys here just pouring in data, pouring in information. And some of it we can get out here on the channels, but by the time we get it here, sometimes those things are behind and we just can't. I wish we could go live stream 24/7, but dude, I gotta rest my voice occasionally. All right, we'll catch you guys next time right here on TechPath, and catch me on Twitter @PaulBaron. We'll see you next time.